Thanks for your interest in this article, Affective Sovereignty, a Decolonizing Politics of Emotion in Palestine. I think it's particularly important that we read and learn about Palestine right now in the context of Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza and escalated ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, as well as the political repression of speech on Palestine, including at our universities, that is enforced in order to maintain international complicities in this genocide and ethnic cleansing. Now, despite these ongoing attempts to fragment and eliminate the Palestinian people, Palestinians persist on their lands and continue to uphold their right to return home. In this article, I suggest that vital to this persistence are Palestinian feelings of belonging to and longing for Palestine. Together, these constellations of feeling form what I call affective sovereignty. Through this concept, I argue that such feelings constitute a sovereign indigenous Palestinian claim to the land. That is, a Palestinian indigenous sovereignty is sustained, affirmed, and reproduced in part through feeling. After laying the conceptual foundations for the notion of affective sovereignty in the introduction, in the remaining 4 sections of the article, I developed this concept through analyses of Palestinian hip-hop music and graffiti. These are important sites for analysis as they are relatively accessible aesthetic practices with long histories in relation to Palestinian resistance. In analyzing these practices, I do not seek to make claims about what these practices might themselves do. Instead, I struggle over the emotional politics that are articulated in and through these sites. So in other words, I theorize from these sites, not about them. Each section focuses on an interrelated form of feeling, which together make up what I describe as affective sovereignty. In the first section, I focus on expressions of Palestinian belonging to the land of Palestine, such as through connections to particular forms of flora that grow on the land, reconstituting the connection to land that Israeli settler colonialism attempts to sever. Second, I move on to analyze expressions of unity across the social, political, geographic, and temporal fragments of Palestine, drawing together a fragmented body and land. In the third section, I analyze expressions of Palestinian longing for Palestine from the condition of exile, which draw together the exiled Palestinian body with the land from which they were dispossessed. Fourth, and finally, explore ways that these forms of belonging and longing are drawn into more explicitly resistant expressions of Palestinian indigenous sovereignty, suggesting that affective sovereignty forms the molten core of Palestinian resistance, always holding the potential to erupt into more direct forms of anti-colonial dissent. This molten sovereignty sears through the so-called Iron Wall, which is the Israeli colonial strategy of deploying overwhelming violence to crush any Palestinian hope for liberation. Ultimately, the concept of affective sovereignty gives Palestinian feelings of belonging and longing their due respect as political claims to land. In other words, it presents a decolonizing politics of emotion in Palestine. Recognizing that decolonization is not a metaphor, this means contributing, however modestly, to the material decolonization of Palestinian land, to bring an end to the overwhelming colonial violence that continues to engulf Palestinian lives. And just as I draw significantly on indigenous theorizing from elsewhere in this article, so I believe the concept of affective sovereignty will resonate with indigenous struggles beyond Palestine. More broadly, the decolonizing analysis of Palestinian emotion charts a path for further research that seeks to harness the power of affect for decolonization.